Alessandro, you are the only character that there is not a prototype for. He lived mythically, so to speak, in The Sopranos, but this is someone that you get to bring to life for the first time. So, what was your prep like for it, and how did you research for Dickie?
Well, I'm not the only character because Harold McBrayer here could state the same thing. But yeah, I did a lot of different kinds of things. I started out in Newark. I had a friend who was a priest who was Italian American guy who'd grown up in that neighborhood, and he took me around, showed me the streets and the houses where I would have lived, and the butcher shops and the social clubs, and then I knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy who introduced me to some fellas who were still in some kind of life like this. It's obviously not the same as it was in the 60s, but they were still doing imitations of judges that they'd all been up in front of. And I read a lot of books. I read books by Roy DeMeo's son, Al DeMeo. He was a famous mob killer, and his son had grown up with him and their relationship and what that was like. And I worked with dialect coach for months, and I watched a lot of Raging Bull and Saturday Night Fever.
Leslie, for you, as mentioned, Harold is a completely new character, someone that we have never heard of from The Sopranos side before. And with this character during this particular time period, what was it about Harold's story that attracted you? Because we've seen the other side of the coin with the Black man's experience, obviously, from One Night in Miami. So there's similar journeys, but obviously a different path. So what about Harold excited you?
Different path. I mean, my grandfather migrated from the South to the North, like 6 million other Black people did, from about 1910 to 1970 in the Great Migration, which saw Black people moving from the southern states to the North and to the West, to divorce themselves from the plantation economy in search of greater opportunities, hopefully a little bit less oppression. So anyway, when they get to the North, their paths diverge, but the impetus for the strikeout, I understood because I knew my grandfather so well. So anyway, I thought it was a chance to represent a man that I knew well, and men like him. So I just wanted some of that truth up there on the screen, and you can't say no to David Chase writing. So I was very, very lucky.
So Michael, for you, obviously you are very connected to this story in a different sort of way. I read that accepting this role was one of the most difficult decisions that you've had to make. What was the tipping point to make you say yes?
Luckily, I didn't have to I didn't get a phone call that was like, do you want to do this job or not? Because I don't know, that would have been a lot of pressure. But luckily, it was a slow burn where at first I wasn't sure if I should even audition. And then I wasn't in a point where I could turn down the audition. Getting up in front of Doug Abel was a good opportunity, and auditioning is a good practice. So I auditioned, I think 3 times over about 3 months. Is a long process. So it kind of became this slow burn of getting to know Tony more and more, and starting to think, oh, you know what? I have a point of view. I think having a point of view is really important. And I wasn't sure if I had one or not. And as I auditioned, I slowly began to have more of a point of view about this character, the writing, and once I, learned who I was going to get to work with, I mean, it was just such a gift, and I was so honored and excited to play one of the greatest characters ever.